that microphone should be on. And as is our custom, I will hand Phil the mic for the first question.
Yeah. I apologize for taking the first question again. I'm shameless, but Stan was in our group. And so we asked a question and the answer was so good, we want him to tell you what we were privileged to hear. So because he was just thinking about this, I thought we should go first. Okay, so just wanted to, yeah, so thank you for absolving me. So the question that we had was, when you were using the language of politics and political in your purpose, in your plenary, we are all aware, and you are aware of this too, is how many different meanings that can have, and a lot of them feel like traps. And so we had this hunch that you were using it in a very particular way, and so we really wanted to give you a chance to talk about it, because you said you're working on a book, and at the end of it is really trying to get at this question. So please tell us how you're thinking about it.
Thank you very much, Phil. The first is, I think what I said is my favorite passage, and that's what I wrote for the licentiate in biblical theology, is Herod's question in John 9. Who is this of whom I hear such things? What was it that Herod heard? Why did it trouble him? And why did he wish to see Jesus? Whether to see him, to greet him, or to tell him to shut up, or to kill him, I don't know. But if you read the rest of Luke 9, you see that it starts with the call of the 12, and then Jesus begins his work. And then it's actually a mini summary of the gospel, because it's the transition from Galilee to Jerusalem. So it's the travel, the beginning of the travel narrative, so which is very strategic. And then Jesus begins to do different things, healing the sick, feeding the 5,000 and all that, showing that what the world is looking for from the church is to heal the sick, to proclaim good news to the world. And at the end, you know, the disciple starts to squabble about who is the greatest. So then you can see that Jesus is answering Herod that who I am and who the church that I am handing over my spirit will be a healing church, a liberating church, a saving church, a teaching church, a church that stands sometimes naked in the world. And that is a demonstration of a different kind of power. So, you know, I was saying in the group at the installation of Pope Leo, the delegation from my home country, Nigeria, of the federal delegation included some of the bishops. They flied on the presidential jet. I was furious. I said, you know, to the president, why? You could have asked some of us to raise money to pay for you than to fly with the president who, if you're following the news, you see all the destruction happening in the country. Nigeria is like a graveyard. 2 weeks ago, 218 Christians were just slaughtered like that. So I said, why will you associate yourself with such a terrible leader? Oh, by being close to him, we will proclaim the good news. Said we need to be close. You need to go to White House in order to proclaim the good news. Jesus did not go to Herod. Herod was looking for him because his message and the way he lived was a contradiction for whatever Herod represented. And that's why they killed him. So when I say the church engaging in politics, that's what I'm saying. And a reprimand to the sons of Zebedee at the end of that text, who were seeking who is going to be on the right and on the left, who is the greatest. So I think Christendom had kind of misled the church. The imperium of Constantine has misled, and we're trying still to extricate ourselves from this kind of monstrous, destructive system. How we title ourselves. I don't know, particularly in the Catholic Church. I'm not familiar with other churches, how all these titles you have, very reverend, most reverend. It is trying to be in touch, meet the world on their own terms. Reverend, Father, Stan Chu, Ilo, PhD, THD, MTH, STD. Your humble servant. No, that's power. That's power. It's not that kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's not association with these potentates and what they represent. It is being intentionally committed to the gospel, because it is, I like that song, the hymn of the turning. My soul give thanks for the la 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 la. Yeah, he brings down the mighty. So this great reversal is the kind of politics. We talk about campaign. Campaign is, they took away campaign from evangelization. That's what, so now you say you're campaigning. It used to be, is evangelize, is the Christian word to campaign. So that's what I mean, to stand strong. But we don't take our cue from the White House. This is the problem, and it's happening all over the world, happening in Russia. You see, like, blessing from the patriarch, blessing the weapon. So I just want to be clear that there is a different kind of politics that reinvents love, and that's the kind we play. So why should the devil have the better part of the deal? It's the same with social media. Why, some people say, like my brother tells my nieces and nephews, you cannot do social media, the world is tainted. We cannot flee from the world. My brother belongs to the Opus Dei. Now is kind of, we are defreezing him a little, because he needed that, like he's too, he doesn't have television. So no, the world is bad. And now two of my nephews are actually software developers, so they're writing their own apps. so we need to get our hands dirty, doing politics of a different kind. I don't know if that makes sense.
So knowing EP, I think you probably just answered the question of every group in the room. But if we have any other questions, let's go here.
You had talked about the praxis of this. I think her name is the Smile of God on a Bike, or the Smile on a Bike, or Hope, or something like that. Anyway,
The Smile of God.
The Smile of God. Okay. You talked about being eyewitnesses and accompaniment and accountability. And our group was wondering if you could speak more to what accountability looks like in that, I don't know, praxis. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So again, forgive me, I go back to the Bible. So I go, forgive me, right? We have to, because none is no longer, because when we see people carrying the Bible upside down, then I begin to wonder if it's the same text that we're using. I don't want to mention names. So, but the preface to Luke Acts talks about, having considered all things, I have decided to put forward to you, O Theophilus, an ordered account of everything that has taken place. And then that's in the sense when I talk about accountability is why is it an ordered account? Nothing in the narrative, in his understanding, so that you will believe everything that has been accomplished. So because it's so important, I don't want to remove any aspect of it. That's accountability. It is similar, but not the same as when Peter begins to talk about always be prepared to give an account of the hope that is in you. But it's also related because they use the same word. And then the Greek word that the writer of Luke Acts talks about is that you are a follower, like where you get the word acolyte. You are following the story. So accountability in this sense is when these women gather, the trauma they have is so deep. They can't tell, sit down like we are talking now and start talking about it. In many African cultures, we tell stories through songs. Indeed, we confront, like my dad was a monarch. So sometimes when they come and they're singing and dancing, dad will always, mom say, pay attention to what they're singing because they might be insulting you and you're there smiling, They use songs in order to speak, but also use songs to tell very sad stories. And then they start, as they go from line to line, like when in these Tamar centers, they start to talk about how they were born, what they suffered. They use metaphors and some oxymoron in order, especially what you call this parallelism. They kind of contrast two things. That's accountability, because by speaking in songs all that they have seen and heard, they are announcing a different good news to the world. That's very important because one of the things, just dealing with this aspect, which is still a new area that we are working on, not only with sister, but there's also another sister, Jose Ngalula, who is in Kinshasa, just right now establishing another Tamar Center where abused Congolese women and sadly, Catholic nuns are coming out also to tell their stories. So rather than, in the West, you do textual writing and kind of what does restorative justice look like, there will be a day of accounting to come for sure in terms of judicial process, compensation, restoration, but they're just at the stage of collecting and composing these stories. That's what is happening now. And that's really what I think is very needed for, is not only in Congo, we need this in Sudan, we need this in northern Nigeria. So many people, like think of it, this community in my home country, Yelwata, where 2 weeks ago, 218 people were killed. And not only that they were killed, their entire neighborhood burned down. There has to be some accountability. But in this account, you're concluding the refrain that they sing is about God of hope. That God of hope, bring us back. God of hope, bring us back. Let your glory shine. That kind of, I'm just doing a part translation here because I'm thinking in my language now, how they sing the refrain is God of hope, bring us back and turn us or turn things around.
So our group was struck by the bit of the story where sister's community told her that they could no longer support what she was doing. And we don't want to jump to any conclusions, not knowing, everything that went into that decision. So we're not going to assume that they're the villains of the piece. But it did raise for us a question and I'm thinking about our old friend Reinhold Niebuhr, right? The individual may be willing to do all kinds of sacrifice, but a group won't sacrifice itself. So do you have thoughts about how communities can become more able to take risks or to discern properly how to take risks so that the people who are in the riskiest place don't end up getting left by themselves while the community stays back?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that we all should reflect on. I don't know if I have the answers, but I was involved in a project for the Holy See that is called Doing Theology from the Existential Peripheries of Life. And through this project, I actually learned a lot about how to create, how communities are actually obstacles to, even the ecclesial community can be obstacle to the work of God. So in Ciudad Juarez, I met Alejandro. So on my altar, I have a stone, a tiny stone that Alejandro gave me. Alejandro lost his brother. He doesn't know where, many people disappear in Ciudad Juarez and many other parts of Mexico. Many people disappear. And the same in my homeland now. It's become like an architecture of violence. People just disappear. One of my age mates, my good friend Hugo, no one knows where he is today. The brother of another priest friend of mine disappeared since 5 years now. No one knows. So Hugo, for 5 years, they were looking for his brother. And he went to meet a priest at the confessional. So because he tried to meet this priest, the priest wouldn't, it's hard to meet him. So he decided, well, in the Catholic Church, you go to the confessional, you will see a priest there at the time stated. And then he said, Father, I don't know. My brother disappeared. What did I do to God that he did this to the family, my only brother? The priest says to him, your brother, he's dead. He's an evil guy. He's a drug dealer. That's what happens to them. And then he went on and on and on. And Hugo said he left the church and swore never to go back to church anymore. And then he goes back to the last spot he stood when the brother left. He saw him off to school and then took the stone. He said, that's my point of contact with my brother. Keep this on your altar. The church should never forget anybody. So the institution has its own narrative. Sadly, this is the problem for particularly in Africa, where many of these religious organizations have formed their charisms, their rule of life based on Western type of spirituality. So whereas people are surrounded by problems and individuals want to confront that problem like Sister Nameka, it doesn't fit into the institutional narrative. And institutions also have to preserve and protect power, its own privilege. So what happens in this case, it also happened in Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She had to leave. Sometimes people have to leave, in order to fulfill the mission God has sent them to do. So, but just like Sister is now facing challenges, she's reinventing. Like it's hard for her, then they have gone into agriculture because she's cut off from the institutional church right now. They are looking for a bishop to support them. In the Catholic Church, without a bishop's letter, then you can't receive support or funding. And if you're a woman, it's actually double jeopardy in the church. So I don't know the answer, but I think that sometimes you need to leave in order to fulfill the mission.
Let's offer Stan one more round of thanks. Thank you.